11 kilometers down, the ocean stops feeling like an ocean. Light is gone. Warmth is gone. Open space is gone. Above you, the entire sea has turned into weight. Below you, the bottom of Earth looks pale, flat, and almost unfinished. At this depth, nothing should be moving. Pressure is not a background detail here. It is the whole room. Every surface feels it. Each crack is tested. Tiny bubbles become dangerous. Soft tissue, metal joints, glass windows, cable seals. Anything with a weakness becomes part of the same question. Can it survive the weight of the sea? Most things cannot. Still, the deepest place on Earth is not empty. Something in the mud is using oxygen. Small animals are crossing the floor. Bacteria are breaking down carbon that began its life near sunlight. Scavengers are waiting for food that may have fallen from another world above them. Even plastic has arrived, lying in a place most people will never see. That is the first strange truth. The bottom of the ocean does not look alive at first. A camera sees pale sediment, a few ripples, particles drifting through black water, and nothing that feels dramatic enough for the deepest point on Earth. Then the bait lands. Minutes pass. One small shape appears out of the dark. Another follows from the edge of the light. Soon the empty floor is not empty anymore. Amphipods crawl over the bait. Sea cucumbers move slowly through the mud. The quiet surface of the sediment starts to look less like a floor and more like a hidden machine. Emptiness was never the right word. Invisible was closer. Challenger Deep is not just a dot on a map. Think of it as a scar inside a scar. The Mariana Trench runs through the western Pacific near Guam, where one tectonic plate bends down and slides beneath another. That slow collision has dragged the seafloor into a long, narrow wound more than 2,000 kilometers across. Inside that wound sits the deepest known part of the ocean. Modern measurements place Challenger Deep at roughly 10,935 meters below sea level. Different surveys vary slightly because measuring a place like this is harder than pointing a ruler downward. The deepest point is narrow, uneven, and hidden beneath almost 11 kilometers of moving water. Mount Everest helps make the number real. Take the highest mountain on Earth and drop it into Challenger Deep. Its summit would still sit more than 2 kilometers below the surface. A climber standing on the top of Everest, inside that trench, would still be deeper than most submarines can safely go. History found this place before technology truly understood it. In 1875, HMS Challenger crossed this part of the Pacific and lowered a weighted line from the deck. The crew recorded a depth of 4,475 fathoms, about 8,184 meters. That was not close to the modern maximum, but it was enough to reveal something shocking. This part of the ocean was far deeper than anyone had expected. Decades later, echo sounding pushed the numbers closer to 11 kilometers. New sonar and submersible measurements narrowed the estimate again. Every survey sharpened the same basic picture. Somewhere in the western Pacific, the planet opens downward farther than anywhere else we know. Very few people have seen it. In 1960, 2 men descended in Trieste, a pressure sphere hanging beneath a huge float. They reached the bottom, stayed only about 20 minutes, and came back up. More than 50 years passed before a person returned. Another descent came in 2012, when a single pilot dropped alone in a vertical submersible built like a torpedo. Cameras worked, lights worked, the sample arm failed. Later dives brought more people down, but the number remains tiny. More humans have traveled into space than have personally seen the deepest seafloor on Earth. Most of what we know comes from machines. Landers fall through the water for hours, carrying cameras, lights, sensors, and bait. During the descent, there is almost nothing to watch except darkness and particles. The water outside becomes colder, the pressure climbs. The surface world disappears into a number on an instrument panel. Eventually, the lander reaches the bottom. Lights switch on. A small circle of seafloor appears in the black. At first, it looks like nothing. That is the trap. The camera is not looking at a dead place. It is looking at a place that moves too slowly, too quietly, and too small for human eyes to understand immediately. Those cameras changed the story. Not because they found a monster, because they found a system. At the surface, air presses on you all the time. Your body does not care because it grew up inside that pressure. 1 atmosphere feels normal. Ears pop in an airplane or underwater, but the number itself remains small enough to ignore. At Challenger Deep, the pressure is around 1,100 atmospheres. That is more than 16,000 pounds per square inch. Nothing about that number is friendly. You do not push back against it. The pressure simply searches for weakness. A crack can become a failure. Tiny flaws can become the whole event. Trapped air can become a target. Gas is the problem. Air compresses, foam compresses, lungs compress. A styrofoam cup sent down on a deep-sea mission can come back shrunk into a miniature version of itself, dense and warped, as if the ocean squeezed the empty spaces out of it. Living things survive by refusing to fight. Many hadal animals have no large gas spaces. There is no swim bladder. Their bodies carry no hollow chambers waiting to collapse. Tissue is mostly water, and water barely compresses compared with gas. Pressure rises outside them and inside them together, so the body does not crumple like a sealed air pocket. Machines cannot use that trick. A human-occupied submersible needs air inside. The crew has to breathe, which means the vehicle must hold 1 atmosphere inside, while the outside ocean pushes with more than 1,000. That difference turns the pressure hull into the most important object in the world. Spheres are used because spheres spread force evenly. Trieste carried a steel pressure sphere. Modern deep submersibles use thick titanium or other specialized pressure-resistant designs. Every viewport, seal, weld, cable entry, and bolt must survive the same brutal question: where is the weak point? Pressure does not warn before answering. At full depth, a hull can compress by millimeters and then return to shape during ascent. That sounds small, but at 11 kilometers those millimeters matter. Failure would not look like a leak you could fix. It would happen instantly. This is why the deepest ocean feels impossible before life even enters the conversation. Human technology can barely visit, yet the mud is already living there. A lander camera touches the bottom with light. For a moment, nothing answers. The seafloor looks smooth, pale, and almost blank. Fine sediment stretches in every direction. Small ripples cross the surface. Particles drift by like dust in a room no one has entered for years. Then the real test begins. It does not begin with the camera. The test begins with oxygen. If sediment is dead, oxygen moves into it and disappears slowly. When something is alive inside, oxygen gets used faster. At Challenger Deep, the mud can consume oxygen more quickly than nearby shallower abyssal sediment. That means the mud is working. Microbes live inside it. Bacteria break down organic material. Carbon that began near the ocean surface ends up buried in darkness, and life still finds a way to use it. This is the first big twist. Deeper usually means less life. Less food falls that far. More pressure makes everything harder. The obvious prediction would be a quieter seafloor. Instead, parts of the trench mud show more activity. Shape explains the surprise. A flat seafloor lets particles spread out. The trench collects them. Material landing on steep walls can slide downward. Sediment, dead plankton, waste, and organic fragments move toward the narrow floor. More material ends up concentrated in a smaller space. So the deepest mud becomes fed by the trench itself. A core of sediment from that floor is not just mud. It is a slow archive of events. Some layers may have settled particle by particle over long stretches of time, Other layers may have arrived suddenly, when an earthquake shook the trench wall and sent sediment sliding downward. 1 centimeter can hold a history. A bloom near the surface can become food at the bottom weeks or months later. Landslides can bury one community and feed another. Carbon from sunlight can end up in a place sunlight never touches. The mud is not background. Mud is the engine. A trench does not behave like an open plain. Gravity has an opinion there. The walls are steep. The floor is narrow. Material that lands on the slope rarely stays perfectly still forever. Sooner or later, the shape of the trench pulls it downward. Think less of a bowl. Imagine a drain. Dead organisms, fine sediment, broken shells, organic dust, and tiny particles can all be guided toward the bottom. Earthquakes make the process more violent. One tremor can shake loose a sheet of sediment, creating a turbidity current that races down the trench wall and runs along the axis like an underwater avalanche. Afterward, the floor changes. Fresh material covers old mud. Food arrives where there was almost none. Microbes get a new layer to process. Animals living there may be buried or displaced, while scavengers nearby receive a sudden pulse of energy. The trench floor is not one calm surface. It is a patchwork of old sediment, fresh slides, microbial hotspots, and quiet areas waiting for the next delivery. That changes how we should imagine the deepest place. It is not a dead pit at the end of the ocean. The trench is a collector. Whatever falls into reach can be pulled down. Natural material enters first. Plankton remains, animal waste, carcass fragments, and fine sediment from higher slopes all move through the same hidden system. Later, something unnatural follows the same path. Plastic. For now, stay with the natural part. Food at 11 kilometers does not grow there. It arrives. Nothing at Challenger Deep makes food from sunlight. Plants do not grow down there. Algae never bloom on the floor. No green world waits in the dark. Everything edible began somewhere else. Most of it started near the surface, where sunlight still touches water, and tiny organisms build themselves from carbon. When those organisms die, break apart, or get eaten, pieces of them begin a long fall. People call it marine snow. The name sounds gentle. Reality is stranger. Marine snow is made of dead plankton, fecal pellets, broken shells, mucus, bacteria, and tiny scraps of once living matter. It drifts downward through the water column, getting eaten and broken apart along the way. By the time it reaches great depth, most of the good parts are gone. At 11 kilometers, food is a leftover of a leftover. Still, the trench has an advantage. Its shape catches what other seafloor would spread out. Slow marine snow is only one delivery system. Landslides can bring sudden loads of organic material. A dead fish can sink. Larger carcasses can fall. Rarely, something huge may arrive and turn the local floor into a feast. A lander bait shows this clearly. The camera drops into black water for hours. Eventually, lights switch on near the bottom. A piece of bait sits in the frame, alone at first. For a while, nothing happens. Then a small scavenger appears. Another comes in from the edge. Soon the bait is covered. Amphipods gather like the floor has woken up. They do not need a calendar. Chemical signals are enough. Something edible has arrived. And in a world this hungry, delay is not an option. This is the rhythm of the hadal zone. Long waiting, sudden feeding, return to waiting. Energy does not live there, it falls in. The first animals that arrive on camera are not giant. They are not monsters. Most look small, pale, and almost fragile. That makes them more impressive, not less. They are surviving in a place that bends machines and blocks sunlight forever. Amphipods are the obvious stars. These animals look a little like shrimp crossed with insects, built for scavenging rather than spectacle. In the Mariana Trench, Hirandelia gigas is one of the most important names. This amphipod appears quickly at baited landers and can tear into food with surprising speed. Wooden objects can become food too. Some hadal amphipods produce enzymes that help break down cellulose, the structural material in wood. Wood placed on the trench floor has been attacked and damaged quickly by animals that can process material most marine life ignores. Sea cucumbers also move through this world. Their method is slower. They crawl over the sediment and eat the mud itself, filtering out tiny organic pieces before passing the rest through their bodies. This does not look dramatic. It looks efficient. Efficiency matters more than drama here. Other crustaceans have appeared in footage from crude dives near the deepest floor. Small shapes moving through the light, as if the impossible pressure around them is simply weather. Single-celled life adds another layer. Foraminifera and other protists can build shells or structures from sediment and minerals. Some are large enough to see without a microscope, even though they are only one cell. The deep floor is full of life that does not fit the simple image of animals with eyes and teeth. Still, the main rule is clear. Big bodies are expensive. Small bodies can wait. A large predator needs steady energy. The trench does not promise steady energy. It offers particles, pulses, rare carcasses, and long gaps in between. The animals that win are not the strongest in the usual sense. They are the ones that can survive the longest on the least. That leads to the next strange absence. Fish should be everywhere in the ocean. At the deepest bottom, they are not. A lander can sit in the dark with bait in front of its camera. Amphipods come in. Sea cucumbers may pass through the edge of the light. Tiny scavengers gather where the scent of food has spread across the floor. But the fish do not arrive. That absence is the strange part. Fish can live incredibly deep. They appear in darkness, cold, and pressure that would destroy shallow animals. Yet past a certain depth, the cameras stop finding them. The deepest confirmed fish sighting is a snailfish filmed at 8,336 meters. That is an extraordinary depth for a vertebrate. Even so, it is still far above Challenger Deep. The final stretch, from roughly 8.5 kilometers down to nearly 11 kilometers, appears to belong mostly to invertebrates and microbes. Fish seem to hit a wall that cannot be seen on camera. That wall is chemical. One reason is TMAO. Trimethylamine N-oxide helps protect proteins from pressure. Deeper fish tend to carry more of it. The molecule works like a stabilizer, helping proteins keep their shape when pressure tries to deform them. At first, that sounds like a perfect solution. More pressure means more TMAO. Problem solved. Biology does not let it stay that simple. Too much TMAO changes how water moves in and out of cells. Past a certain point, the amount needed to fight pressure may create new problems inside the fish. The same molecule that helps survival begins to become a limit. Picture the camera dropping lower. 8,000 meters passes. A pale snailfish can still exist in that world, soft, ghost-like, and almost unreal. The lander keeps falling. 9,000 meters, 10,000 meters. The bait reaches the floor near 11 kilometers, and the lights show movement, but not fish. Amphipods come. Microbes work unseen. The sediment carries life. Vertebrates seem to be missing. No gate blocks the way. Nothing visible stops them. The boundary is inside the body. Above it, fish can still manage the chemistry of pressure. Below it, the price of keeping protein stable may become too high. That is why scientists think fish may not be able to live much deeper than about 8,400 meters. The deepest fish stop before the deepest bottom. Amphipods keep going. Microbes keep working. Mud keeps breathing. The smallest lives move into the space where vertebrates seem to run out of options. Human imagination likes the wrong winners. In the deepest ocean, people expect huge teeth, glowing lures, strange eyes, and animals that look designed for nightmares. Reality is quieter. The winners are small. Microbes dominate the mud. Amphipods find food fast. Sea cucumbers process sediment. Foraminifera leave tiny shells behind. Life is present, but it rarely announces itself in a way a camera can easily understand. Smallness is not weakness here. Microbes do not need skeletons. Amphipods do not need swim bladders. Sea cucumbers can move slowly and eat what the sediment gives. Each system has fewer parts that can fail under pressure. Large animals carry large costs. They need more food, more oxygen, more structure, more stable internal chemistry. A feast or famine world punishes that kind of demand. Small organisms can wait through hunger. Tough organisms can survive the pressure. Simple systems can keep working when complex systems reach their limit. This is why the bottom looks empty. The important life is either hidden in the mud, too small to notice, or too slow to feel like action. Empty was never the truth. Hard to see was the truth. Everything so far belongs to the ocean. Mud, microbes, scavengers, pressure, falling food, and trench walls are part of a system older than humans. The next object does not belong there. A plastic bag was filmed on the seafloor during a crewed dive to Challenger Deep. At nearly 11 kilometers down, among pale sediment and darkness, a piece of single-use human waste rested at the deepest place on Earth. That image does not need exaggeration. A bag made to be used for minutes traveled farther downward than almost any human ever will. Earlier records had already shown plastic debris at extreme ocean depths. Later studies found something even harder to dismiss: microplastics inside the bodies of trench amphipods. The scavengers did not know the difference. A fiber looked like a fiber. Fragments arrived with everything else. In a world where every particle may be food, plastic enters the same system as organic matter. Industrial chemicals reach them too. Some trench amphipods carried persistent pollutants, including PCB chemicals, at levels that shocked scientists because these animals live in one of the most remote environments on Earth. Distance did not protect them. Depth did not protect them. Darkness did not protect them. The trench collected food, then it collected trash. Its steep walls and narrow floor do not separate natural from artificial. They sink. Each settles. Eventually, both become part of what waits at the bottom. Humans have visited Challenger Deep only a handful of times. Our waste arrived without needing a submersible. The strange part is not that we know so much about Challenger Deep. It is how little of that world we have actually seen. Imagine judging a forest by lowering one camera between the trees for a few hours, pulling it back up, and calling the story complete. That is close to what the deepest ocean forces us to do. Crewed submersibles may spend hours descending and hours returning, only to get a short window on the bottom. Landers can stay longer, but they see only what passes in front of one camera. Beyond the lights, the trench continues. Ridges disappear into black water. Slopes fall away beyond the frame. Sediment layers hide chemical stories no lens can read from above. Small animals cross spaces no one has filmed. Microbes turn carbon into motion inside mud that looks still. Challenger Deep is often spoken about like one point. The real place is larger, rougher, and less known than that. One sediment core is tiny compared with the floor it represents. A few animals in a trap cannot describe every community in the trench. One camera view cannot prove what lies beyond the light. That uncertainty is the reason this place still feels alive as a mystery. Each serious look has moved the story in the same direction. The deeper we look, the less empty the place becomes. A camera finds amphipods. Sediment tests reveal microbes. Chemical readings show oxygen being consumed. Baited landers bring scavengers out of darkness. A dive finds plastic. Each discovery removes another piece of the old idea that darkness means nothing. We have mapped parts of the moon with more confidence than we understand some parts of our own seafloor. The deepest place on Earth is not unknown because no one cared. It is unknown because the ocean protects it with distance, pressure, darkness, and time. At the bottom of Challenger Deep, the ocean does not roar. It works slowly. Mud consumes oxygen. Microbes process carbon. Amphipods follow chemical signals through black water. Sea cucumbers turn sediment into food. Fish stop above the deepest floor, held back by the chemistry of their own survival. Plastic sits among natural debris like a message from the surface that should never have arrived. Nothing there is fast. Almost nothing is obvious. Everything is under pressure. Yet the system keeps going. Carbon begins near sunlight and ends in sediment. Food falls through kilometers of water and becomes a sudden event on the floor. Life survives by needing very little, moving carefully, and using whatever arrives. The deepest part of the ocean was never empty. We simply looked for the wrong kind of life. A place can be dark and still active. Depth can hide a world without erasing it. Silence can be full of work. Down there, 11 kilometers below the surface, the ocean is not empty. It is just living too slowly for us to notice.